Hi guys, welcome back to another video. My name is James. I'm a teacher abroad from the UK. I've now been living in Thailand for the last few years. And these videos are about my story, um, teaching English in Asia. Okay, so currently I've been talking about um, my time in China, and I went there about 2016, left there in 2021. And yes, like I said, I am now in Thailand. Okay, so if you've been watching the previous videos, I've worked my way up to the point where I was in China during the COVID period from early 2020, so up to 2021. And I actually left China in the October 2021. Okay, so my last video, I spoke about the situation I was in, what I had to do, because I couldn't work full time. During the first half of 2020, I was doing online work. I was doing some other kind of business thing, just to make some extra money with one of my girlfriend's friends. And I got to the point where I had to leave Beijing because Beijing just seemed to be continuously locking down and then maybe opening up and then locking down. And, I was running out of money. So the next step was I had to leave Beijing. And like I said in the last video, I moved to a place called Wuxi. It's not a well-known place unless you know a lot about China. And I decided to go there instead of, say, Shanghai or Shenzhen, the biggest cities, because I was afraid that the biggest cities would be more likely to have an outbreak and more lockdowns, with there being more people there, of course. So went to the small city in Wuxi. I remember, I took the fast train down there. I did something a little silly though, which really annoyed my previous employer. I had agreed to continue online classes for them, which I had been doing for 1 month. I think it's a month of July or August 2021. Sorry, 2020. And then I was on the train and I mistakenly thought that I could teach a class whilst on the train online on my phone. What I didn't take into account was the fact that the signal was not going to be very good in the train station, and it was a big mess. And the parents were complaining to my ex-employer a lot about it, and she was calling my girlfriend and being very angry. And I thought I'd really messed things up because as you may or may not be aware, if you change jobs in China, they own the rights. Your employer owns the rights to your work permit and therefore your work visa. So if you change jobs, they need to cooperate with your new employer to transfer your work permit to them. Okay, so I kind of thought I'd messed up with this. So, but luckily, my girlfriend, who is Chinese, managed to kind of calm them down. And yeah, I got to Wuxi, and I was met by my new employer at the train station. It's very nice. And then she took me to a big lunch, and she had a co-partner in this business thing. What it was there was two schools, one that was run by an established program, a franchise school, another one which had something completely new and being created by another foreigner, an American, very different. So that was a challenge learning that how to teach that curriculum there. that program. But anyway, had a huge lunch and everything seemed to go well. And then, I had to tell them, okay, I have to do these online classes. And they were quite surprised at how much I had to do. So, anyway, got through that month, finished that, and then I was kind of working between these two companies. One was close to my place, one was a bit further, like 30 minutes on the bus. And yeah, things didn't go so well with the unfortunately the school that was close to me. Just the program was kind of difficult to learn, and it was just didn't work out very well. So after a few months, that partnership between the girl who hired me and her co-partner, that dissolved, and I was now just full-time at the other school, which was further away, unfortunately. So that meant I had to travel to work now, as opposed to walking like 5 minutes across the street. So I missed that part, but I definitely didn't miss working at that company. So during the October, if I just make a pivot there, I ran into more visa problems, which is always a pitfall of living abroad. So what happened is I did get the documents from my previous employer to transfer my work permit to my new company, but they kind of took their time with it, maybe just to kind of a little bit of retribution or whatever for leaving, and kind of the way I left maybe wasn't great. So anyway, they did transfer, but unfortunately, when I put my documents in, I got my work permit, but I didn't have my visa. So you get your work permit first, and then you get your visa after. So I remember I went to the employment office with my employer, and I put all my documents in to get the work permit card, right? And I think I remember I had just gotten the card before the national holiday week, which is the first week of October. So, but I didn't have my new visa, and of course my visa expired during that week, and I hadn't gotten a new one. So I had my new work permit, but I had an expired visa. So I was now a little bit, unsure about what was going to happen there. So anyway, I went to the local police station to sort this out with my employer, and it was kind of nerve-wracking, being in the police station again. And luckily, I had to spend several hours there, but I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but they kind of used some loophole about the COVID law that they had about because people maybe delayed from leaving and can't leave and all that stuff because of lockdowns in various countries. So they used that loophole, thankfully, to kind of say, okay, he overstayed and he couldn't really help it, and okay, we'll give him his visa. Yeah, so thankfully that got sorted out, and another very worrying day. But yeah, went back to work, and carried on. So that was the October 2021, and I would say working at this new company, it was generally okay. The curriculum was quite easy to understand. Students seemed mostly pretty good. I did have a few classes where it didn't work out so well. They just kind of didn't care or whatever. And sometimes dealing with, I'm not so good at dealing with the kids that are a bit older, like the 10, 11, 12 year olds, because, they're less easy to control, I would say, and, they can, mess you about a bit. So, yeah, I didn't like that, but that course ended, and or that class ended, and then but I remember entering a period where I was okay with all my classes. There's a new girl that started to work there as a teaching assistant. The previous teaching assistant, we didn't really get along too well. She was quite odd, and she kind of, just very strange. It almost felt like she didn't really like foreigners much, or me. So yeah, I think my boss decided to say bye bye to her, and we got a new girl in there who was just really cool, and she did a really good job, and my classes really, they started going much better. So I did enter that period where the sweet spot where everything seemed to be pretty much okay. Um, Also, like I mentioned in my last video, my girlfriend who I'd lived with in Beijing for a number of years, she couldn't find the work she wanted in a smaller city. So she ended up moving to Shanghai. And Shanghai is just, 45 minutes on the fast train. So basically, I would work Wednesday to Sunday, and then Sunday night I would just take the fast train, 45 minutes, quite cheap, to Shanghai, and she'd meet me there. And I would spend every Monday, Tuesday in Shanghai, which, was really fantastic. I got to explore that city, some of the sites there, buildings, the malls, great place, great place. Went to some really fun restaurants and everything, bars and things. So great time there. And also another bonus is that they were building they were really expanding the subway in Wuxi. So when I first started going to Shanghai, I had to take the bus from where I was staying, which was in the suburbs, to the town center, to then get on the train. But then they built a subway station at the end of my street. So I was like, that's unbelievable. So I could just walk 2 minutes to the end of my street, get on the subway, 10 minutes, be in the train station, and then 45 minutes into Shanghai. So, the convenience was unbelievable. And it just seemed like, I reached a point where everything was just kind of fitting together nicely. I was spending time in a great city. My work was okay. The money was coming in. I'd recovered from losing, a bunch of money during the COVID period. And I was starting to invest in cryptocurrency and all of that stuff. And this was a time when crypto was, really kind of, getting going. Now my girlfriend, she worked for a company that, was kind of made coins, or they made platforms where you could sell the coins, trading platforms or something. So she knew about this stuff, and she got me into it, and I started investing in that, and I remember the whole thing about Dogecoin. I invested in Dogecoin in the April, earlier on, like February 2021, and those couple of months the price just went insane, and I didn't invest much money, maybe £10 or something, 100 RMB, but it was so cheap. But then it went up to 75 cents in April, and then of course it just after the whole Saturday Night Live Musk thing, it just crashed because he said it was nonsense, or it has no value or whatever. It's just a bit of fun. But anyway, still got that, and it's still, worth more than I bought it. Um, it was worth basically nothing. So um, yeah, so financially things were going well, work was going well, things were pretty good. My apartment was big and it was just me most of the time, and I was like, oh yeah. And then of course, the Chinese government started to clamp down on cryptocurrency. So my girlfriend, she had to. They said, she had to work remotely. So all of a sudden, she no longer had to live in Shanghai. She could move back in with me because she could just work at home. And so, I thought about keeping an apartment. It's just a cheap place in Shanghai. So we could just go there every Monday, Tuesday and hang out in Shanghai. But she would be back living with me most of the time in Wuxi. So again, another thing which just kind of seemed to be working out. Things just getting better, you know, all the nonsense with the visa stuff and, the COVID and the lockdowns and, not knowing if I'm going to, be able to afford my rent and stuff like that. And then it's like, okay, things are good. And then in the summer of 2021, July, that all stopped. It all stopped. And that will be the topic of the next video. Okay, so stay tuned for that. Thanks for listening. Please like and subscribe. Thanks. I'll see you on the next one. Bye bye.